Welcome to my channel, guys. So I'm starting a topic on data structures and algorithms. Okay, I'm starting from the basic of the data structures and algorithms. So the main is order of growth. So this is the order of growth: 1 log n root n log n square n cube n 2 power n 3 power n power n. Okay, so where we use this? We use that in the finding of time complexity, which is very important in data structures. The main theme of the data structures is nothing but the time complexity and space complexity also. We'll discuss that in the further. Okay, now this is the graphical representation of the order of the growth. So big O of, we say this as a big O. Big O of 1 is constant and log n root n by 2 big O of n log n square n cube. So in this way we represent in the graphical representation. Okay, and if you want to represent it in a digital way, you can use a website called Desmos. Okay, now what is like main asymptotic notation is big O represented as like this. This is the big O. So we'll ask some the main question from this topic is they give us a function. Okay, so we need to get it the order of that particular function. We need to find the order of this function. Okay, so how we'll find? This is the general representation of big O, which is asymptotic notation. Okay, so this is the representation. This is the main equation. Okay, so the question is 2n plus 4. So we write 2n plus 4 greater than or less than 2n plus 4n. See, the highest is n, so we represent it as 2n plus 4n. So it gives us 6n. So 6n is where 6 is the constant and n, this is the function where it is a g of n. So this final answer can be written as f of n equal to big O of n. Okay, this is function of big O of n. So it requires big O of n times to execute. Okay, now coming to finding time complexity. Okay, what is time complexity? The time complexity is the time required to execute an algorithm. So the question is given as this, like, okay, I'll explain this with the examples so that you understand in a clear way. So this is the first example where you have int a equal to 0 and b equal to 0. In this way they give the question and ask what is the time complexity of this particular question. Okay, in your semester exams most probably. Okay, so here how can we find the time complexity? So we have for loop. Okay, and so for loop it takes the big O of n times, and this is not inside, one for loop is not inside the other for loop. So this for loop is separate, this for loop is separate. This is not a nested for loop. So this separate takes big O of n times, this separately takes big O of m times. Then and this line which is constant take big O of 1 time. So total time is big O of 1 plus big O of n plus big O of m. So we can neglect this writing because it is a constant. So big O of n plus big O of m. Okay. Now let us see the second example. For int I equal to 0, I less than n. So this is the given code and we need to find the time complexity for this. Now how can we find the time complexity of this? See, for loop, we used a for loop. Now you take like this just as this big O of n? No, that's wrong, because we have for loop inside a for loop. This is a nested for loop. Like in the before case, okay, we took this n big O of n, this is an big O of n. Okay, here it is not a big O of n. Why? Here you are taking like this is of I less than n, j less than equal to I, but here k equal to 0 and k is less than 100. This is constant. Okay, okay, first you write in this way separately, like it takes big O of n, big O of n, big O of 1. It's fine. Now this is a nested for loop. Then what we do in the nested for loop is we multiply these. As big O of 1 is neglected, we take only these two. So what we get the answer? Total time. What is the total time? Big O of n square. Okay, I already said in data structures there are two important terms known as time complexity and space complexity, right? So as we already seen that time complexity, now we'll see about the space complexity. So what is space complexity? See, we are using int a of 5. So as we already know, like for int, float, everything has some byte. So int has 4 bytes, and a of 5 means it contains 5 elements inside of that array. So 4 bytes into 5 elements equal to 20 bytes. So this is a constant. So 0 of big O of 1 is a constant. So space complexity of this particular int a of 5 is big O of 1. Okay. Now int a5, what is the time complexity and space complexity for this? Time complexity is a big O of 1. Space complexity is also big O of 1. So this is about the space complexity and time complexity. If you like this, please do like the video, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you.